This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
And we welcome you to the Fatal 4-Way live here on ON TV, along with Brian Bolf and Quadell Edwards. I'm Jason Clouse. We have a lot of wrestling news and headlines that we're going to talk about here tonight. But before we do, we want to make mention that this week's episode is being dedicated to Todd Gilbert. And later on in the program, we will be remembering Todd and paying special tribute as we lost a member of the PFC network family last week. That's later on in the program. But we start off this week in terms of wrestling news with this rash of releases that has become an annual thing in and around the business of world wrestling entertainment. And with that, over the last few days here, we've seen almost 20 superstars, primarily from the NXT brand, that have been shown the door by WWE. But there were some names that raised some eyebrows, most notably the names of Braun Strowman and Dakota Kai, Shayna Baszler, Cora Jade, and Shotzi Blackheart. Now, the other name that really stands out to me was Eddie Thorpe. He was figured to be very much, factored into the future of NXT. Q, I'll start with you. As these names were starting to come out in terms of being released. Now, this is nothing new. They do this every single year, and a big chunk of the roster is gutted, for the lack of a better term. Right on the heels of WrestleMania, this year has been no exception. Braun Strowman, for example, this is the second time he has been released on something like this. So I guess in terms of star power, he's the big name. But was there anybody else on here where you're like, man, they're really missing the boat with this star?
Braun definitely was a big one. He was definitely a big one. It sucks that it happened to him twice, pretty much for the same reason that they gave that, saying that his contract was one of the highest, contracts. But a big surprise for me was Dakota Kai, and I was a big fan of hers. I was a pretty good fan of hers. And for me, I'm thinking about like your mid-card scene. Like you almost need somebody like that for these mid-card titles that's not really getting any big spotlight, at least not until recently with Becky and Lyra. But you need some of these mid-card girls, to actually go out there and have some of those workhorse type matches. And I thought she fit the bill. And I know that, she was dealing with injuries, and I hear that with a lot of these talents that got released, like Cora Jade, dealing with different injuries, and Shayna Baszler being older, and but to me, Dakota Kai was one of my favorites that I hate to see go.
Yeah, before we came on the air, you had said, wow, they just really obliterated their women's tag team division with a lot of these stars that were on the chopping block with this latest round of releases. I look at a Shotzi Blackheart, for example. I wasn't necessarily a fan of hers, but she stood out.
Yeah.
She was different. You knew who she was. And given the right environment, I think she could have been a bigger star on the main roster. Brian, when you look at this list, there's going to be several guys and gals, for that matter, that are probably immediately on the radar of one Tony Khan.
For sure.
Of these stars that have been released, who would you assume is going to be among the first that we hear that are going all elite?
Strowman for sure. I mean, I think that will be they'll think that's a huge get, but unless you have a storyline for Braun Strowman, he doesn't do anything. That's why he's been released twice. It's hard to find a good storyline for him, at least with the WWE product. Perhaps they could find one there at AEW. Man, I'm with Q. I'm a big fan of Dakota Kai. I'm surprised to see her go. It bums me out. Cora Jade was kind of a surprise. I could see her going as well. Like, she seemed talented, but like you said, plagued with injuries. The Shotzi Blackheart, like, they really tried pushing her, especially when she was in NXT. I could never stand her. That's one I'm glad to see go. I'm like, there's some of these ones I'm like, please AEW take them. I think it would be like a sinking ship for you, but.
You know, the other thing is, it's not just going to be AEW. I mean, there's a lot of focus on that because they're the number 2 brand in the wrestling space. You can take TNA off the table because of their business relationship with WWE, obviously. But there's still NWA, there's still MLW, and that's not to say who else is going to be joining the ranks of AAA or New Japan or All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Hogan's new one.
Huh?
Hogan's new group.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's going to be, we can actually talk about that later on in the program, because the more I learn about that particular project, is like, oh, this is going to be something way different than pro wrestling or sports entertainment. If there's time at the end of the show, we'll address that. But when you look at AEW, they already have a bloated roster that they don't know what to do with half of them. You know, and if they brought somebody in, or a couple more people that knew how to maximize your talent across all their shows that they have, and they just did a series of shows here in Detroit at the Masonic Temple, which led to an interesting public comment by Tony Khan. But I could see Khan going after a Braun Strowman, an Eddie Thorpe, even Dakota Kai, just not to necessarily utilize them, but just to put them under his banner. Oh, we have these ex-WWE guys, because for him, that is a big chunk of what drives him. Anybody can argue until they're blue in the face. He does it on his own. Every media outlet that he talks to, every podcast, he can't help but throw a jab or two at WWE. Oh, yeah. And this is a prime example, especially a Braun Strowman, because they don't really have a lot of big, giant guys over in AEW. And Strowman would stand out, and with the right booking, he could become truly a monster, in every sense of the word, because he would be that big fish in a smaller pond,
I think the key word is the right booking.
Right.
Because I noticed one thing about AEW. The big guys that they do have, they don't get booked right. They're not really good at, you see the storyline with the Wardlow.
That's why I was,
Wardlow was supposed to be the biggest star, Batista-like star, coming out of that feud with MJF, and nothing happened. You got Big Cass over there. You got all these other big guys that, Powerhouse Hobbs, and they're not really using big guys like, they should use big guys. They're so focused on the Ospreys of the world. So AEW it's a different product. It's not really a big guy product.
That's fair. That's fair. What I would say, not in defense, but a counterpoint. You use Big Cass as an example. Big Cass can move. Like, he is a good worker for a big guy, but in terms of not popularity, but personality, he ain't got it.
He ain't got it.
His biggest claim to fame, or the biggest chance to become a real star, was when he was in that tag team with Enzo Amore.
Because Enzo was the mic piece for him.
Exactly. He was, Enzo was the voice of the team, and Cass was the muscle of the team, and that's why it worked.
Road Dogg Billy Gunn.
Absolutely. We mentioned AEW was in here in Michigan, in Detroit, this past week, and they were at the Masonic Temple for Dynamite and a taping of Collision. I guess the main event was a match between Samoa Joe and Claudio Castagnoli. So I don't know. I feel like with that being the main event in Detroit, I see that Tony Khan is trying to establish his brand here in a territory, for the lack of a better term, that is very heavy in WWE, so, fanfare. With that, the announcement was made after the show went off the air that Tony Khan is planning on bringing an AEW pay-per-view to Detroit. He furthered that by speculating, or kind of teasing, I guess, that he may be eyeing Ford Field as the venue for an AEW pay-per-view. We sat here, full disclosure, off air, and chuckled at that notion. Brian, we'll bring it on here. If they were to book Ford Field, is there any chance that they're going to be able to fill that stadium?
Man, I guess it would depend on what pay-per-view it was. It would have to be like one of their biggest shows for them to do that. I mean, maybe that is this plan. I mean, it all would also depend on the card. I have a hard time believing it, but I also don't know what a lot of their live event attendance numbers are like compared to that. It would be interesting to see. Man, like I said, like you couldn't do that with just a smaller show, though. It'd have to be a big show. I don't even know if like you threw Backlash at Ford Field, like how it would do.
Well, again, it would depend on the card.
Yeah.
Now, if
Like
you're building Cena Orton, you have a good start, but you got to fill the rest of that in.
Yeah, that's a big place. Like,
right.
Like, yeah, like I said, it would really depend on that card and what show it was.
AEW is going through something of a transition. It's almost as if they are listening to their critics by not booking bigger venues for their TV tapings when they're not drawing half of that building. So dialing it back and focusing on the smaller venues is a good start for them. I did see pictures of their setup at the Masonic Temple here, or in Detroit from this last week. I'm like, that was beautifully done, and I really applauded that effort. I would think if you're going to look for a bigger venue, Q, wouldn't you want to focus on like Little Caesars Arena?
Absolutely. I mean, Ford Field is massive, and just like you said, it's got to be the right card. It's got to be one of the bigger shows. Who can main event that? I mean, Ford Field. Do you have somebody on your roster that can draw enough attention, just to start the card off before even filling it out? You got to start that you got to get the main event together first. Like, who do you have the story behind that main event? Like, what's backing that up? Like, what? You'll see MJF against Cope. I mean, like, what are we gonna do here? And nothing against the AEW superstars or wrestlers, but I don't think they have what it takes to. And maybe I'm just a hater. You call me a hater if you want to, but I don't think they have what it takes to fill that building. I mean, this isn't London.
That was going to be my point.
See, I can see that this is something that you do they can feel London. They have a fan base there.
Right.
Here, this is brand new. I feel like this is something that has to be built. Maybe if they come here maybe twice a year, build it up, go to the Little Caesars, do a couple of tapings, Dynamites or whatever, a couple of B-level pay-per-views, and then throw your big show in here a couple years down the line. Maybe you can fill it up. But as of right now, no, I don't see that happening.
I was going to say, that's what I was saying too. Like before we were on air, I was saying about how my buddy Pete, AEW is his brand. Like that's what he likes the most. And I would absolutely go with him to an AEW pay-per-view show. Like that would be a good time. But I can only imagine what they're going to charge for tickets if it ends up going to Ford Field.
Here's my take on it, because I'm looking at it from a whole different avenue here. You mentioned London, Wembley Stadium, and yes, their all-in shows at Wembley Stadium were huge. They drew big numbers. But the reason why that happened was not necessarily because it was an AEW pay-per-view. It was because it was a pro wrestling show that featured stars that they knew. Because getting that brand in London is not an everyday occurrence. There were wrestling fans who were just wrestling fans who bought tickets to a wrestling show that happened in their stadium. You look at Detroit, and this area has been a long-time stronghold for WWE products. We have mentioned Ford Field. It hosted WrestleMania 23, and most recently a SummerSlam. They booked that building, they filled that building because they have the star power. Even though you may not have hardcore wrestling fans, but they have enough people on the roster that they can put their faces on a poster and a general wrestling fan knows who that is. AEW does not have that. And that's why I think even hinting at going to Ford Field is a laughable joke at this point. They're just not strong enough, especially in this market, as a brand to even think about putting that kind of money and resource into booking an 80,000 seat football stadium that can be dialed back to, around the 50,000 mark, all depending on what you do for your set, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds and where that pay-per-view winds up, what pay-per-view it's going to be. A couple of other notes for local ties here.
I'll tell you what, though.
What's that?
You booked Ricochet against Javon Evans. I'll show up.
Oh, for Pete's sake. With last week's shows in Detroit, Zach Gowen was shown on AEW television. He has local ties here in the state of Michigan, as did Rhino, which really makes him a real traveler at this point. I don't think there's been a major organization that he has not worked for now with his arrival.
Or appeared.
Yeah, with his arrival in AEW. So very cool. If you have a thought, an opinion on the releases or AEW coming to Detroit for a potential pay-per-view, our phone lines are open, 810-640-5591. You can call in live and join the conversation. Before we go to break, I do want to make mention of history that is going to be made on May the 25th when the NXT Battleground Premium Live event is going to take place. And for the first time ever, the TNA World Championship will be on the line on a WWE branded premium live event. Joe Hendry, it will be defending the TNA World Championship against Trick Williams in Q, something that I would call a low-key dream match. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, in more of a company type sense, like TNA against WWE almost type thing. But this match is interesting to me, and what I've noticed is that whatever show that the company is doing, it's always that company that ends up winning that match. And I almost want to see it flip a little bit. Like I want to see what is it? Is the TNA title on the line?
Yep.
Well, I guess we might end up seeing Joe Hendry take out Trick Williams, but I don't know. It's weird. I almost want to see that match take place on a TNA pay-per-view and Trick Williams win on his ground,
right?
Because I kind of want to see something more like, okay, you come into my territory and you win. Like we seen the whole thing with Jordan Grace when she was competing for the NXT Women's title, and it was always the champion that would win. I want to see something flip here. I wouldn't mind seeing Trick Williams.
You got to know that
walking
there's a
around.
possibility that could happen.
Right.
Otherwise, it just seems predictable every time.
Exactly, and they kind of did make it predictable by putting it on a battleground PLE instead of doing it on a TNA.
I mean,
show.
think about it. If this was a year ago, that just sounds like fantasy booking. You
Right.
wouldn't believe that there would actually be a match.
Right. No, very true. Joe Hendry is becoming, and we're seeing him more and more.
You keep saying his name, I know he's going to show up.
Yeah.
We might as well pull up that Ford chair.
Wouldn't that be awesome if I
would
could
be.
pull that off? Say his name and he appears. But he was at WrestleMania, and now he's at a WWE branded PLE. It's just Royal Rumble. It's just a matter of time before he gets called up here,
Yeah.
right? And the more we see him, the more acclimated he's getting to the WWE audience.
They're doing a good job of it, too.
They
like
really are.
sprinkling
I
them
was
in
gonna
without
say
just
that.
shoving them down your throat.
Right.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. They're taking care of him.
Yep.
They're bringing him up the right way. And here's the important part. They're not totally crapping on the TNA brand here. They're really trying to add prestige to the World Championship. Having him walk out at WrestleMania with that belt on and recognized as the TNA World Champion was huge for that brand. That moment was not lost on me, So we're starting to see the groundswell of what's going to be one of the next big stars, not just for TNA, not just for WWE, but for the entire business. Like, this guy has the potential to become that next big breakout star, and I am here for it.
And it's organic. That's
Right.
what I like about it. It's organic.
Don't you
just
feel
get
like
behind it.
we're getting a much more organic product? I'm like, you look at Dominic Mysterio running back to the ring at WrestleMania, like, they weren't expecting that. Like, the buzz you get with Braun Breaker even and Penta, like, it's natural fan buzz. That's really Jacob Fatu is pushing these
great
people to the
example.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to be talking about all those guys here right after this timeout. So with that, stick around. More of the Fatal 4-Way is right after this.
Celebrate spring at the annual Art and Flower Fair on May 17th and 18th in downtown Lake Orion. The Orion Art Center's free event offers 100 art and flower vendors, live artist demonstrations, a kids area with games and crafts, and live entertainment all weekend long. Art, music, shopping, and food make for a memorable weekend in downtown Lake Orion. For more information or to apply to become a vendor, visit orionartcenter.org.
9,
8.
8.
Are you or someone you know having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance abuse crisis? 988 connects you to compassionate, confidential support for free.
988.
988 is the new 3-digit dialing code for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For years, the Lifeline, formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, has answered tens of millions of calls and helped people overcome mental health-related distress. 988 is the same trusted resource. When you call, text, or chat 988, you'll be quickly connected to trained crisis counselors who will listen to your concerns, provide support, and get you additional help if needed. There is hope. The Lifeline works. You are not alone in crisis. Just call, text, or chat 988.
988.
Knowing how to identify signs of crisis in others and help connect them to resources like the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is an important way to prevent suicide in Lake Orion. For information about free suicide prevention trainings offered in our community, please visit the North Oakland Community Coalition at noccmi.org.
988.
And welcome back to the Fatal 4-Way live on ONTV. We certainly appreciate you tuning in here this week. I'm Jason Clouse, being joined by the Stan Lee of PFC, Brian Bolf, and Hollywood Q, Quadell Edwards. And if you would like to join the conversation, our phone lines are open, 810-640-5591. Now, as we come out of the break here, let's focus on tomorrow night's WWE Backlash Premium Live event. It happens in St. Louis, Missouri. This has become one of the more anticipated installments of this show, the first premium live event after everything that went down at WrestleMania 41. We're going to focus first on what they have for the Women's Intercontinental Championship match, when Lyra Valkyria will defend the title against Becky Lynch. I'm going to tell you, this is the weak match on the card for me. I don't mind, because I am not I can't buy into Lyra yet. I feel like they're trying to push her too hard, too fast down our throats, and she's not ready. And then there's Becky Lynch, who I have to really, like, my disdain for the man goes on a level to where I don't like talking about her, because it's very difficult for me to stay within a PG dialogue. So Q, I'll let you take this over. It's Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Who do you like in this?
I got you covered, man. And I'll make it quick. It's going to be Becky before she can feud with Bayley. Simple as that.
Brian, you're over there nodding.
I can't really disagree. I think Becky will take it. I feel the same way about both of them. I wasn't a fan of Lyra really in NXT. I thought they pushed her even through that.
You don't like birds?
No, I don't like her as a bird. I think she's weird. Also, if Becky loses, that's 2 in a row, because Lyra took the NXT title from Becky when she won it. So I'm like, I don't see her having 2 chances at the title. And I agree. I think we might see Becky versus Bayley, which I don't know if anybody wants to see that as well.
They're really trying to add interest to that, because I listened to that Raw recap podcast that they do, and Becky was on there, and she was really hammering home the history with Bayley and everything. And when she had come out, after they had lost the women's tag team championship and who attacked Bayley and all this other stuff, she came right out and said, "I did it. I'm the one who attacked her," which was a departure, because usually when there's a sneak attack, there's weeks-long investigation, and then it winds up being a popcorn fart in church. At least she come out and said, "I am the popcorn."
Can we get a job as like WWE investigators and like that? Like we just walk around like detectives backstage. Like, I think I figured it out.
When you said that, what that conjured up was the memories of the Naked Gun guys, Leslie Nielsen and George Kennedy searching for The Undertaker at SummerSlam 94. That's exactly what I mean, for 2 months straight, man. Like they were
I tell you what,
on the lookout for The Undertaker.
If they don't want to book us as writers, dude, I'll take that role too.
I'll take it.
For sure. All right, switching gears. This has become one of the more anticipated matchups for Backlash, and it really shouldn't be, but they've done a pretty remarkable job at incorporating the human element into this match, when Gunther is going to go one-on-one with Pat McAfee. Now, I almost said that too. Now, on paper, this should be very short, very one-sided. Gunther is going to go in here and wipe the mat with them, because McAfee is just looked upon as a commentator for Monday Night Raw. But when you add Michael Cole into the setup of this and you get physical with him, he has achieved that status where he is untouchable, right? Like, he's been here for 28 years. He's done it all. He's the face of the voice of WWE. You don't touch Michael Cole. So by Gunther, trying to choke him out, McAfee, who is a legitimate athlete, former football player with the Indianapolis Colts and all that stuff, take nothing away from him. And he's looked very impressive in other matches that he has, but he hasn't faced anybody like Gunther. and coming off, losing the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, Brian, Gunther is really in an unenviable. He has to win this, right, if he wants to stay relevant in the world title picture.
Correct. And I don't know how you can even say anyone like Gunther. Is there anyone like Gunther? Like, he stands head above everybody
Maybe
else.
Walter.
Yeah, maybe Walter. I could see that one. He's got to win. Man, when McAfee stood up for Cole, it was awesome. Like, that story, the storyline of them building that friendship is cool as well. I really think I think we could see the Goldberg interference.
That was going to be my question for you, Q. Is this where
I think we'll see that match at SummerSlam, because Goldberg's supposed to have his last match this year, and that would probably be it. But I can't see Goldberg interfering and causing McAfee to win because, like you said, Gunther can't drop 2 in a row.
Right.
So maybe it's Gunther destroys him and continues afterwards, and that's when we see Goldberg show up to pull him off, basically. Spear.
That was going to be my follow-up question because Goldberg's name has been popping up a lot here in the last week and a half or so on social media, speculating on who his final opponent is going to be. If you recall, SummerSlam this year is going to be the first time this event is going to 2 nights, and it's at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. So they're going to have a high-profile card to fill that stadium 2 nights in a row for an event that's not WrestleMania. Do we see Goldberg here? Is part one of the question, and does McAfee stand a chance?
Well, the second part of that question is no. McAfee does not stand a chance. I don't care what kind of protection you put on your computer. McAfee is going down. I kind of agree with what Brian was saying. I can see Gunther just destroying McAfee and just, giving McAfee a couple of weeks off, destroying him, pinning him, destroying him again. I kind of want to see Gunther, after destroying McAfee a little bit more, go out there and possibly try to go after Cole again, because that's where it all started. Then you hear you get the fireworks and all the sparkles, and then Goldberg can come out and, you got that altercation to set that up.
I see it more as him hopping over the rail with the black hoodie on, popping it off.
That's an Uso thing.
But that's what we've been getting a lot with everybody lately.
That's true. Yeah, I don't want to see
Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Just
Paul.
sucker punch.
Like, that's the new move.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Goldberg in no hoodie.
Question. So if Goldberg does come out and they end up booking Gunther versus Goldberg at SummerSlam, if there's not a title involved, does it still end up being a main event on one of those nights?
Night 1.
Yeah, I think so too.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say no.
You'd be wrong.
Just saying, I mean, I don't think
maybe not at this table, but man, Goldberg fans, they hold him in high regard.
If you book it as his retirement match, that's the only hook you need. And then you have Gunther, like you said, who is beyond believable. This is not going to be a Goldberg-Lesnar fight. You know what I mean? This is going, and I mean by their first one at WrestleMania 20, which was
stinker.
Yeah, we'll just say that.
It was the R word.
This was this could be, a real a decent match, because Gunther could fill in the spots where Goldberg is lacking. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Also scheduled for Backlash will be a fatal 4-way for the WWE United States Championship. Jacob Fatu is going to defend his championship against LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, and Damian Priest. You've got all of your key components in the U.S. title picture, one match, fatal 4-way rules. Jacob Fatu is, his star continues to rise. LA Knight is a guy that is kind of in limbo right now since losing the championship to Fatu at WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre with his win over Priest at WrestleMania, you almost thought he would be getting the one-on-one title shot, but you have to keep everything kind of fresh and intertwined, and I understand that. We saw a great, fatal four-way at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship. So this match has a lot to live up to. Well, how do you see this going? Does Fatu retain the championship here, or do we see the crowning of a new champion?
I think he's going to retain, only because I don't think they're going to take that belt off him, not with all the heat that he has. There's such a strange similarity with this match and the next one that we'll talk about with Dominic and Penta. You have two guys that are supposedly supposed to be heels, but have all the fan backing in the world, and they both have the belt, and they both have a guy close to them that is ready to turn on them at any second.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like we have the exact same storyline, and I don't think we'll see interference in both. So I don't think we'll see Solo try to interfere and cost Jacob the title. I think he ends up winning it. I think Drew, it seems like odd for him to be in this match. He should be in the world title scene. I think we'll see him and Cody maybe have a feud right after this. Like I said, LA needs a heel turn. Like, he's losing so much heat that he had. I think Priest will definitely be the one out of the four that eats the pin.
I could see that. He or LA Knight, unfortunately. I think they really have to do something with Drew McIntyre, because he's one of those guys that, he teeters all the time. You know, you give him a little bit and he'll take it and run. But if you don't do anything with him and he drops below, it takes him a minute to get back up there for whatever reason. This dude should be very heavily factored into the world title picture, but here he is with the United States Championship. Jacob Fatu is probably the odds-on favorite to retain. Do you see an upset here, or no?
No, I definitely see Fatu. It's too early to take the title off of him. I do actually see Solo somewhat getting involved and almost costing him the title, and Fatu got something to, get in his face for on SmackDown. But they're not taking the title off of Fatu. I'll be real surprised. I don't even see, even though Drew has been the hot guy, but he's the underappreciated guy.
Right.
He's not going to be in this scene long. He's just doing something until he can get to where he really supposed to be. I think the summertime is going to be big for him, but as of right now, he just needs a match. So he's just in there. So I see Fatu either, just like you said, pinning either Priest or LA Knight, because LA Knight he's not getting the title back.
Yeah.
I doubt that. And Priest is just lost right now. He doesn't have any momentum, so it's Fatu.
I see Fatu versus Solo at SummerSlam. It's going to be another one of them matches that they've already started laying the groundwork. It's with the storyline.
I think you need the belt too to make that story
say,
worthwhile. Because without the belt, it's who cares really?
It will add more prestige to the United States Championship. Really make it that workhorse belt, because Solo Sikoa can go. You know what I mean?
He beat the world champ.
Right. Yeah. It's man, why you're not doing more with this guy, I don't understand. They had a golden opportunity last year to really get him factored into the main event picture with his feud with Cody Rhodes. He headlines SummerSlam in Cleveland. Man, you really dropped the ball with this guy. So hopefully they can use the U.S. title as that backdrop to get him back to where he needs to be and continue to showcase Fatu. We will also see the Intercontinental Championship on the line at Backlash. Dominic Mysterio will be defending the title against one of the fastest rising stars in recent memory in WWE, in Penta. This could be the match of the night.
Agreed, for sure.
As far as fanfare is concerned, there is a lot of anticipation for this match, because Dominic Mysterio has really come into his own. Whether you're cheering him or hating him, you are respecting him. And we saw that full display at WrestleMania when he won the championship in the Fatal 4-Way. I was in Allegiant Stadium when that happened. And that was one of the loudest pops of the night, was when he won. The section that we were sitting in was primarily Dom fans. So, with that whole, when he won, that whole section just come unglued. And to be in the middle of that environment was something awesome. Yeah. And I'm like, man, feeling that energy, looking at this kid, thinking about where he came from, even going back to 2005 when he was the prize of a ladder match. You know what I mean? But to see him come and win arguably the second most prestigious title in the history of professional wrestling, I will die on that hill. It's cool to see him. He is really part of that new rush of talent that is going to become eventual main event stars. And then there's Penta. It's been a long time since we've seen a newcomer arrive on the scene and have the kind of impact that Penta has made. Brian, this could steal the show.
For sure. I think this is definitely the odds-on favorite for match of the night. Mm-hmm. I think we all definitely agree there. Like I said, there's so many similarities in this match to the previous match. This is the one where I see like there's got to be interference. Like I think we'll see something with Finn and Dominic. I think Dominic will definitely retain, especially after what we saw at WrestleMania with him running back. Like there's no way they're taking the belt off this kid after a few weeks.
Right. This is not the North American title.
But you have Penta, who, like you said, like he's got a rocket strapped to him. Like you're not gonna like take that away from him as well. So I feel like you have to have the interference in this one, so you can keep both those guys and their momentum going. Finn and Dominic, I see another match for SummerSlam, that 2-night thing. Mm-hmm. Like Finn's gotta get out of Judgment Day. It's like. The story's there. You got to pull the Band-Aid off that and let it go. The one thing I will say about Dominic, and now he's like becoming such a fan favorite, I think they really missed the ball. And when when he was facing his dad, they should have been a retirement match.
Yeah, good point.
I think they were waiting. I think they thought they could do it later because Ray wasn't ready to be done. But man, if you wanted to put a heat on a kid, if he would have been able to retire his own dad, I think that would have been the way to do it, but
there's nothing says that they can't circle back around once Ray comes back from.
How long is he gonna go for?
I don't know. Until his legs fall off at this point. I mean, and he's not that far from it, apparently. If we can be honest with you, this is one of those matches you really can't call. You've got two of the biggest, youngest stars in WWE right now for the Intercontinental Championship. What's your prediction here?
These are the best type of matches where you got two guys where you feel like they can't lose. If this one lose, he loses momentum, or if that one lose, he loses momentum. Those are the best matches because it becomes unpredictable. And that's I think it's definitely got to be Dominic. He has a lot of gas in this tank and on this run that he's on now. And Penta is. I don't think Penta lose anything by losing to Dominic in this match. I don't think so because Penta is cool. Mm-hmm. He's the cool guy that all the other lucha wannabes want to be like, So he's not going to lose anything. And plus, we already know that Penta's going to end up reuniting with Rey Fenix in the near future. So I don't see a single title run right now for him, at least not right now. Maybe down the line, maybe SummerSlam or something like that. But there's a story with Dominic and Finn, just like you were saying, and they inserted AJ into that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's still a lot more to go with Dominic. So Dominic takes the win, and he's alone now. He's still a part of Judgment Day, but there's no Liv.
Right.
So you took that dynamic away from him right now. So that actually gives him more of a face type look, because people are hating on Liv. Liv is still getting booed, but you don't have her out there now. So Dominic, man, he's gonna be on fire.
Do you think that this match could be like an old school WCW luchador match? Like I see like a Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis type match out of these two.
To a degree, yeah. Dominic is a lot more grounded. And not to say he can't leave his feet, because he can.
That's why I'm wondering if he will in this match.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he will. I think he got some stuff in his back pocket.
I think we're going to see some stuff out of him that we haven't seen.
New. He's going to do something new.
Well, we're going to see if there's anything new in the long-running and 25-plus year rivalry between two pillars of a generation, of an era in WWE. However, this time around, the roles have switched. We will see in the main event of Backlash, WWE Champion John Cena will be defending the title against the Viper, Randy Orton. We talk about big rivalries of eras. You're talking Flair and Rhodes. You're talking Hogan and Savage. You're talking Austin and The Rock. You talk about Cena and Orton. Q, this is a match we thought we were going to see. We hoped we would see. It's been a long time since these two have gone one-on-one in any capacity, but especially in the main event of a premium live event with the title on the line. But now we're getting heel Cena versus face Orton. It's in Orton's hometown. There's a lot that they could do with this particular match. How do you see this going down?
I think the powerful element in this match is going to be the crowd.
Yeah.
To me, I think the crowd is really going to carry this match. It's going to be a slow pace. It's not going to be the match of the night, but it's going to be a moment. It's going to be more of a moment than an actual match. Orton is a slow pace star. He's older. John Cena is barely moving, so I mean, I don't know how much offense we're going to see from him, but I like I said before, I think I said last year, I said I want to see John Cena in this retirement run just play back the old hits. This is one of those old hits that, is going to actually hit because it's where it's at.
Right.
And that's where, I'm telling you, the crowd is going to carry this. And somebody brought it up on, I think, Twitter or somewhere, where they brought up the match between these two. And,
I think you're going to say exactly what I'm thinking,
was
too.
The heel, and he slaps the referee and gets disqualified.
I was going to say, when you said bringing back the hits, I'm like,
if they do that again,
I don't think they do it to end because, man, that would be an awful end to the PL. I
think they're gonna tease it.
I think they'll tease it.
Yeah.
I think somebody might catch his hand, whether it be Randy catches his hand and stops him from doing it. Do we see Cody show up and interfere and stop the slap? But
I don't want to see no interference.
I don't.
I hope not. I hope it's Randy catches him before he's able to do it. But yeah, I agree. I think we're definitely gonna see a nod back to that.
Oh yeah. But I'm taking Cena for this one though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to carry on this whole run.
I was almost, I was excited about the possibility of Randy Orton getting this title shot in his hometown, but I also realized much what you just said. It's way too soon to be taking the title off of Cena at this point, right? But like we were talking about with Penta, Orton doesn't lose anything by losing this match. He is so established.
No. Oh, he's made.
And this is John Cena's last year, but it's not Randy Orton's. So there's still a lot of time to keep Orton in the picture to possibly start getting a few more world title, runs on his belt. So where do you see? Do you go Cena here?
No, I want to be the odd man out. I'm going to go Randy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if I 100% believe it.
I don't think myself.
But like I said, I would really like to see that ticker going between Randy Orton and Cena throughout this year. Like, who can snag up enough title runs?
Mm-hmm.
But
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as we don't see Travis Scott out there, I think it's going to be a win.
Oh God, no Travis Scott.
At
this point, I don't even want to see The Rock because he already.
I think there might be a possibility of us seeing him only because of the backlash he got from not showing up at WrestleMania. And then it only got worse when he was like, he did that, he was on Pat McAfee's show.
Yeah.
Man, like that hate. I think they got to try to erase that. Or otherwise,
show up at Backlash. How about that?
if you don't, then that was a waste of time because nobody's going to even want to see him when he does show up.
You know, we mentioned him just a little bit ago, and they've been mentioning him kind of in past tense, but we haven't heard anything about Cody Rhodes since WrestleMania. Hardly at all. So, you know, it's like out of sight, out of mind for a minute. So, you know, if they were going to incorporate him into this, but it goes back to, I don't want any interference with this. I want Cena versus Orton. One last time.
You got a classic right there. Don't mess it up.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Well, Backlash goes down tomorrow night live. Will be streamed on Peacock beginning at 7 p.m. I believe they have a pre-show that begins at 5 p.m. So you're going to get a 2-hour pre-show and then the premium live event. And for international fans, it's going to be on Netflix. You get your premium live events on Netflix. This is shaped up to be one of the better Backlash cards in recent memory, but I said it when they said that they were going to be in St. Louis. St. Louis fans, you have big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Because last year, Lyon, France really showed the world what a WWE crowd needs to be.
Yeah.
So St. Louis, I implore you to
bring it.
show up tomorrow night.
Even
for
2
Backlash.
years ago. 2 years ago was Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So, come on.
All right. You're going to have to bear with me here a little bit. We're going to take the remaining time that we have here on the show. Number one, we appreciate everybody who has tuned in here tonight for the Fatal 4-Way. If you follow us on social media, you follow me personally, or any of our colleagues, you know that the PFC Entertainment Network family lost one of our own last week. And this one kind of hits hard. We lost Todd Gilbert. And what's interesting about Todd's story is everything. The guy just was the epitome of resilience, of determination, had a heart the size of Texas. It would have been real easy for life to kick Todd's ass. But instead, he found a way to kick life's ass. And that has been the reoccurring theme that we have talked about in tributes that I've read, things that I've heard, stories that I've heard since his unfortunate passing last week. Right now, I sit here in the studios of ONTV in Lake Orion, Michigan, and it was in this building that we had some of our greatest moments and events in the Michigan Wrestling Organization. And it's hard to believe, but where we sit right now, there used to be a wrestling ring up here. And our last show here was the 2021 Tricker Slam, and what would wind up being my last match as a professional wrestler. It wasn't written that way, but that's how it went. I worked with Todd in a last man standing match, and it was on full display how much heart this guy had for the wrestling business as a whole and for the organization more specifically. Todd wanted to be a wrestling star, and he came to me in 2015 and asked to have a spot on our show. It took some doing, it took some working, but I have always believed that if anybody was willing to put in the work, to put in the determination, to put in the heart for a goal, I was going to at least give them an opportunity. What they did with it would be 100% on them. I have talked at great length for many years now about maximizing your minutes, and nobody incorporated that catchphrase or that cliche more than Todd Gilbert. In his 44 years here, he lived every moment. He maximized every minute. And he was able to overcome things, overcome challenges, overcome obstacles that would have derailed most anybody else, but not Todd. Because he had that kind of determination and that fire inside. But it went beyond the world of professional wrestling. The talents that Todd Gilbert brought to the proverbial table reached many realms of entertainment. Whether it was with his illustrations, video production and editing, or perhaps what he was most known for was his music. What we'd like to do right now is play a clip from an interview that Todd did in 2018. This is Todd Gilbert, essentially in his own words.
Don't mind the rain falling on the roof. It's been a welcome thing since I learned the truth. My baby's gone.
Well, I was born with muscular dystrophy, and when, as I got older, you couldn't do things like, sports and all that and crazy athletic stuff you do that a lot of people do in school. So the arts was really my outlet. I turned to music, especially because music, you don't have to have big muscles or be crazy athletic or anything. The only muscle you really need is your heart for something like that. You know what I mean? And that has been my outlet ever since.
Don't mind the rain.
I had not seen that clip until just now. But it was a testament to what made this dude tick and why he is going to be missed by a lot. Everybody that knew him, worked with him, he everything that he put into, he gave 110% every single time, and never used his challenges as a crutch or as an excuse. He reshifted that focus, made it his tackling fuel. He really made an indelible impression in the wrestling space, in music, with his family, with his friends. And he's going to be very sorely missed by all of us here at the PFC Network and anybody else who had the privilege of knowing him. This weekend on pfcnetwork.net, there will be a tribute page for Todd, and on there will be information on how you may be able to help the family in the aftermath of this unfortunate passing. So with that, we appreciate everybody who tuned in here tonight. And we will see you in 2 weeks here on the Fatal 4-Way, live on ONTV.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.